I knew something was wrong the moment the elevator doors opened on the 25th floor and the entire office went quiet. Not silent, quiet. The kind of quiet where people pretend to work, but their eyes keep drifting toward you like they're watching a car crash happen in slow motion. And in that moment, walking past the glass-walled conference rooms of Ridgewell Technologies, I realized something had happened to my project. My project. The one I had built, coded, tested, broken, and rebuilt for 6 straight months. The one I had poured so much of myself into that even the system logs felt like diary entries. I could feel it, something was off. My badge beeped as I passed through the second security gate, and before I could even sit at my desk, my manager, Brian, jogged toward me with his fake smile plastered on like it was stapled to his face. "Morning, hey, so the CEO wants to see you in the boardroom," he said. The CEO never wanted to see me. I was a lead systems architect, not someone who got called upstairs unless something had either gone really, really right or really disastrously wrong. And considering the office atmosphere felt like everyone had been given a secret memo about me except me, I knew it wasn't the first one. I took a steady breath and walked into the boardroom. Inside sat Charles Ridgewell, the CEO, and next to him, legs crossed, expression smug, sat his daughter, Sabrina Ridgewell, 29 years old, wearing a tailored white blazer and radiating the kind of confidence only the children of billionaires have. And on the center screen behind them was my project, my interface, my architecture, my design, except my name wasn't on it. Sabrina's was. Alex, perfect timing, Charles said. We were just reviewing Sabrina's breakthrough prototype for the new enterprise rollout. Breakthrough prototype? I felt the blood drain from my face as Sabrina clicked the remote and began presenting my project, the automation platform I had built from scratch. She didn't even understand half of what she was saying. I could tell by how she used the wrong terminology and skipped entire sections she clearly didn't comprehend. But the board nodded like she was reading scripture. I stood frozen. I wanted to speak, but my mind couldn't process what I was seeing. My work stolen. My months erased. My own folder names still visible on the interface because she hadn't even bothered to rename them. When she finished, the room erupted into polite applause. Charles looked at me. "Alex, since you're on Sabrina's team, I assume you'll support her with the rollout." Support her? Support the person who had stolen my project? I swallowed hard. "Sir, there must be some mistake. That project is..." "Alex." Sabrina cut me off, her smile sharp and practiced. "We're all on the same team here. No need for ego."
Ego.
I clenched my jaw. "With all due respect, that architecture is..." Charles raised his hand. "This isn't a debate. The board approved Sabrina's proposal. Your role now is simply to assist." And that was it. They dismissed me like a delivery driver dropping off a package. That afternoon, HR emailed me a modified assignment sheet. Reassignment to support role, temporary. I knew what that meant. In corporate language, temporary was the first shovel of dirt on your corporate grave. I sat at my desk for an hour, staring at the email. My coworkers avoided my eyes. A few came over to pat my shoulder or pretend to ask technical questions just so they could show sympathy without being obvious. Everyone knew what had happened. Everyone knew I'd been robbed. But no one would admit it out loud. Because Sabrina wasn't just the CEO's daughter, she was untouchable. That evening, as the office emptied out and the fluorescent lights hummed like dying insects, I opened my laptop and began going through the server logs. Something had been bothering me ever since the presentation. I wanted to know how Sabrina got access to my files. My workspace was locked behind multi-factor authentication, encrypted, and accessible only through a private subnet that even upper management didn't casually access, unless someone forced entry. I scrolled deeper into the logs, and that's when I found it. A login session approved at 2:17 a.m. Not from my laptop. Not from the office servers, but from a device connected through the executive override channel, a channel only the CEO and his appointed family members could access. And the user ID was clear. _Ridgewell_exec override. My hands trembled. Not with fear. With anger. She had used her father's backdoor security clearance to enter my system illegally. That wasn't just unethical, it was a violation of federal cybersecurity compliance laws. Not to mention a breach, so severe it could trigger a corporate audit capable of freezing operations. And then I saw something even worse. She didn't just copy my project. She deleted the audit trail. But she didn't know audit trails have audit trails. And those were still intact. She thought she'd erased evidence. She didn't know I had built secondary logging protocols for exactly this reason because I had seen too many executives cover their tracks over the years. And if the board saw this, she wouldn't just get in trouble. She would be ruined. I closed my laptop slowly. In that moment, a decision settled into my bones. I wasn't going to fight her. I wasn't going to argue. I wasn't going to scream or beg or threaten. I was going to let her destroy herself. The board was meeting in 3 days for quarterly oversight. If I added one small line of code, just one, it would trigger a compliance alert the moment her prototype connected to the main server. The alert would expose the unauthorized access, the tampered logs, the executive override misuse, and the security breach. It would all hit the board in real time. And they wouldn't be able to ignore it, because the system didn't just report breaches. It froze accounts. It terminated access. It escalated alerts to external auditors automatically. It triggered mandatory legal review. I stared at the elevator doors as they closed in front of me. Sabrina Ridgewell had stolen my project, but I was about to take something far more valuable from her. Her power, her immunity, and maybe her career. I walked out of the building with a calm, cold certainty humming through me. She thought she had won. She didn't know the game hadn't even started yet. The next morning, the office felt different, not quieter, not tense, but watchful. Like everyone sensed something was about to happen but didn't know what. I walked in with my coffee, acting like nothing was wrong, even though my entire plan was running through my head like a quiet drumbeat. I had one job today: prepare the system for the board's quarterly review. Every quarter, the board connected to the main server from the executive suite, reviewing platform architecture, performance charts, and development updates. It was routine, predictable, and exactly the environment where Sabrina would want to showcase her project again. And the moment she connected, the breach I uncovered would expose itself automatically. But first, I had to make sure everything was set. Not sabotaged, not manipulated, just properly highlighted. I wasn't doing anything illegal. I wasn't fabricating evidence. I was simply making the system do what it was built to do: report unauthorized access and security violations. If Sabrina didn't want those violations exposed, she shouldn't have committed them. By 10 a.m., I was on the 23rd floor internal lab, checking compliance logs. The pale blue server room lights reflected off the smooth steel racks as the machines hummed around me in a rhythm I'd grown familiar with over years of late nights. I plugged in my secure terminal and opened the monitoring interface. The breach sequence was still intact, untouched. Her unauthorized login, her failed log deletions, her override misuse. It was all right there, timestamped and verified. All I had done was enable the auto-escalation function. Nothing more. As I reviewed the code, I heard footsteps behind me. Working hard or hardly working? I didn't need to turn to know the voice. Sabrina's tone had that same patronizing sweetness she used yesterday. When I did face her, she stood with her arms crossed, an amused smile tugging at the corner of her lips. "What are you doing down here?" I asked. She shrugged lightly. "Just checking in on my project." The word "my" hit like a slap, but I kept my face blank. "I figured I'd make sure you weren't sabotaging anything," she added. "What makes you think I would?" I asked calmly. "Oh, Alex, come on." She leaned closer, lowering her voice. "I know you're upset, but you really shouldn't be. This is just how things work. Some people build, some people lead, and some people support." She tapped the edge of my laptop with her perfectly manicured finger. "You? Your support." I held her gaze, without blinking. "If that's what you believe." She smirked, satisfied by what she thought was my submission, and walked away, heels echoing sharply across the server room floor. She didn't know it, but every step she took away from me made her fall even harder. After lunch, Brian, my manager, called me into a meeting room. He closed the door behind us and offered that awkward half-whisper people use when they're about to betray you but want to pretend they care. "Listen, Alex, I need you to be smart about this," he began. "About what?" "About Sabrina taking the lead on the project." "So that's official now?" I asked. He sighed. "It comes from the top. Her presentation impressed the board, and Charles wants her visible this quarter. It's political." "Political," I repeated. He nodded. "Just cooperate, okay? Let her shine. In the long run, this could actually benefit you." I almost laughed. "How?" "Well," Brian swallowed. "You look like a team player. Leadership notices that." Leadership. As if they hadn't just robbed me in broad daylight. I leaned back in the chair. "I'll do what's required." Brian smiled, relieved. "Good, good. And tomorrow, during the quarterly board review, just let Sabrina handle all the talking." "Tomorrow. Perfect." I walked out of the room with a straight face, but inside I felt a cold steel certainty settling deeper. Everything was aligning exactly the way it needed to. By late afternoon, I returned to my workstation and reviewed the compiled audit packets. The breach alert was ready. The server would trigger at the moment Sabrina connected her prototype to the board network. But something unexpected happened at 4:53 p.m. A system alert flashed onto my screen. Unauthorized attempt. Executive override clearance request. User, _exec override. Location, CEO office network node. My eyebrows rose. She was trying to access something else. I quickly opened the real-time logs. She wasn't trying to steal more of my work. She was trying to delete the entire breach history. Except she didn't know the audit logs were running in an isolated fail-safe layer I had written myself. She was digging herself into a deeper hole without realizing it. Every attempt she made to erase her tracks created another violation. And the system documented each one. By 5:02 p.m., there were 3 new entries. By 5:06 p.m., 5. By 5:10 p.m., 7. I almost felt bad for her. Almost. She must have panicked. Maybe someone hinted that security logs existed. Maybe she spotted something she didn't like. Either way, she kept trying to cover it, and her attempts just kept getting recorded. At 5:30 p.m., she stopped. The logs went silent again. I shut everything down, packed my laptop, and left the building with a calm that felt almost unnatural. I walked past the front desk, past the glass lobby, past the reflections of myself in the polished marble floor. The city outside was cold and sharp, streetlights flickering on as dusk bled into evening. Cars rushed past, horns blaring faintly, but my mind felt still, controlled. Tomorrow would be the quarterly review. Tomorrow Sabrina would present again. Tomorrow she would plug her stolen prototype into the board's main server. Tomorrow the system would do exactly what it was designed to do. And when it did, she would have no idea the avalanche came from her own hands. I took a deep breath, watching the steam fade into the night air. Sabrina had power, privilege, a CEO, father, and an entire executive suite protecting her. But she didn't have the one thing that mattered most in this game. She didn't have the truth. And she definitely didn't have control. The next morning, I arrived at Ridgewell Technologies earlier than usual. The city skyline reflected on the glass walls, a cold reminder of the high-stakes world we operated in. My coffee was strong, my nerves steady. Nothing in the world could have prepared Sabrina for what was about to happen. She thought she was untouchable. She thought she had outplayed me. But untouchable doesn't mean invisible to someone who knows the system inside out. The board members began arriving, one by one, sipping their espresso, flipping through portfolios, nodding politely to each other. They had no idea that within minutes, their entire quarterly review would become a front-row seat to corporate justice. Sabrina arrived last, fashionably late, smiling like a queen ready to conquer her kingdom. She swept past me without a word, already rehearsing her spiel in her head. I let her go. My part wasn't to intimidate, it was to observe, to wait, to make sure the timing was perfect. When Charles called the board to order, Sabrina was already connected to the main server. She started her presentation confidently, her voice dripping with authority she barely understood. Slide by slide, she spoke, pointing at charts that she couldn't explain and clicking buttons she didn't comprehend. The board nodded, impressed on the surface because the interface was slick and the visuals professional. They had no idea whose genius powered the backend. And then it happened. The system triggered the compliance alert. Not a minor ping, not a soft notification, but a full breach warning flashing red across every board member's screen. The words scrolled. Unauthorized executive override detected. S. Ridgewell_exec override. Audit logs tampered. Security breach level. Critical. At first, the board members froze. Then murmurs rose, questions forming in their faces. Sabrina's smile faltered. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, trying to undo something she couldn't reach. She attempted to delete the logs, to mask her tracks, but the fail-safe I had installed days before ensured every attempt only deepened the trail. Charles's eyes widened as the red alerts reflected in the glass of his office. He leaned toward his daughter, whispering, "Sabrina, what did you do?" But Sabrina couldn't answer. The system had documented everything. Unauthorized access, log deletions, breach attempts, all timestamped and verified. There was no hiding, no spinning this into a minor oversight. It was monumental, and the board had all the evidence. I watched from the side, hands folded calmly, as the tension in the room became palpable. Sabrina's voice quavered as she tried to explain herself. I just wanted to speed up the process." The board chairman, a stoic man with decades in corporate governance, raised a hand. "Ms. Ridgewell, you used your father's executive credentials to access a restricted system. You attempted to delete audit logs and bypass security protocols. These are violations not just of company policy, but federal regulations. Can you explain why the logs show repeated tampering?" She opened her mouth, then closed it. No words came. All the rehearsed charm, the manipulative confidence, evaporated under the weight of undeniable proof. "Board," Charles started, his tone shaking. "Sir, with all due respect," the chairman interrupted, his voice sharp, cutting through the tension. "This isn't a matter of respect or family. This is a matter of compliance and accountability. Someone has to take responsibility." And from these logs, he looked directly at Sabrina. "It appears the breach originated from you." Sabrina's face paled. Her designer suit seemed suddenly heavier, suffocating. She stammered, trying to appeal to her father, but even he had no words to protect her. The auditor's automated escalation reports pinged, adding weight to the breach notifications. Every board member could see the evidence, in real time, with no filter. I felt a strange thrill, not from her humiliation, but from justice finally catching up. Months of stolen recognition, sleepless nights, ignored warnings, all converged in this moment. Within 10 minutes, the decision was made. No long debates. No lobbying behind closed doors. The board voted unanimously. Sabrina Ridgewell was terminated immediately, effective on all systems. Her access revoked. Her prototype frozen. Her actions were being reported to external auditors, and her misuse of executive credentials would be formally documented. She looked at me then, eyes wide, a mixture of disbelief, rage, and fear. I didn't flinch. I just nodded subtly. No words were needed. The moment spoke for itself. Charles stood there, stunned, as his daughter collected her things. For a brief instant, the weight of family, wealth, and influence collided with accountability, and the collision was brutal. As Sabrina was escorted out, I was called into the conference room by the chairman himself. "Alex," he said, shaking my hand firmly, "you've done exceptional work here. Not just technically, but ethically. Your logs, your foresight, your handling of this incident protected the company from what could have been a catastrophic security breach. We want you to know your efforts are recognized." I nodded, letting the words sink in. Recognition finally, not because of my work being visible in a stolen project, but because integrity and intelligence cannot be ignored forever. I knew from this day forward, no one could steal from me or underestimate me, without consequence. Over the next few weeks, the company stabilized. The prototype was reassigned to my lead team, and I was given autonomy to rebuild and optimize it, this time with full credit. Sabrina's exit became a cautionary tale whispered in corners, a lesson in hubris, privilege, and the underestimated power of a quietly determined professional. And me? I learned that revenge, when paired with patience, precision, and a deep understanding of the rules, doesn't need theatrics. It doesn't need shouting, threats, or drama. It simply needs the right timing and the right evidence. Justice, in its most efficient form, speaks for itself. Every time I walked past the boardroom, I caught a glimpse of the empty seat where Sabrina had sat. A reminder that privilege only protects you until the truth meets it head-on. And I walked a little taller, a little prouder, knowing that my work, my effort, and my integrity had prevailed, not with noise, but with undeniable impact. From that day forward, Ridgewell Technologies didn't just recognize me as a skilled engineer. They recognized me as someone who could protect the company, who could navigate treachery, and emerge not just unscathed, but respected and unstoppable. And Sabrina? She became a cautionary note in every corporate discussion about nepotism and compliance. But for me, her downfall was never about revenge alone. It was about reclaiming what was rightfully mine, proving that talent and patience are far more powerful than unearned advantage. The office buzzed with renewed respect for quiet determination, and I finally understood a truth I'd always suspected. In the corporate world, real power doesn't always wear a title. Sometimes, it's coded in lines of code, in logs, in meticulous preparation, and in a mind that refuses to be underestimated. If you loved this thrilling journey of betrayal and revenge, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to future Fate Revenge for more mind-blowing stories.